Right, so this is the Hobbyzone Super Cub S. Yes, I don't know what the S stands for. Probably not sport, maybe slow or safe or something like that. But yeah, just to give you a few things on this, if you're a beginner, it's the first time you're buying an RC plane, or you're about to buy the Super Cub S. This was my first RC plane. Now it's the first time I've ever flown an RC plane. I've never joined a club, I've never used a simulator, I've just literally went out, bought an RC plane and flown it. So I've got a few useful things that, you know, if you're doing the same thing, that might come in handy for you. I can tell you some things that went right, some things that went horrendously wrong. So yeah, this is a good plane if it's your first plane. It's got a nice high wing, so it's got a big wing going right across the top of the plane, which is what you want. I also bought a Warbird, which is like a wing lower down there. You don't want to be flying anything like that for your first. This is the type of plane you want. A big wing across the top. It's got no ailerons on the side, it's only actually got a rudder, so it's great to learn with, fantastic to learn with. But what happened was, when I took this plane out for the first time on the maiden flight, I crashed it 4 times. 3 times could potentially have been avoided if I'd checked something simple. Now, what happened was, when I was actually turning right on the stick, the plane was turning left. And this was the standard setting. Why on earth it comes this way, I couldn't tell you. It's just beyond me. But this was the standard setting as how it came. And I didn't realise this for the. I'll show you this just to demonstrate. The first time you ever fly in a plane, you know, the plane's violently moving. You've just got it up off the ground. It's violently moving. You know, it's so easy to crash the thing unless you've done some basic things. Now, basically, when I was pressing right on the stick, the rudder was turning left, so you make sure you set it up on your control. You can see loads of videos online that you can look at. When you press right, the rudder should physically also turn to the right. When you press left on the stick, the rudder should physically turn to the left. That is absolutely key, because like I say, the standard setting was the opposite way around. And it wasn't until the 3rd flight I actually got the plane up, and as soon as it lifted off, I went to correct it, and I seen it bank to the left, and I thought, was that the wrong way around, that setting? Now, with this transmitter, a couple of quick clicks and you can reverse the settings around. I'm not going to go into how you use this. You know, you'll see videos on how to use this. This is orange TX6i. You know, search it if you want to really see how you use the transmitter. It's so easy, couple of clicks and you can swap that round. The other thing is, the rudder wasn't quite straight. It looked to me like I'd set this up straight. I didn't think it was really that important that I had to get it bang on. But if that was straight, the rudder was just very slightly off and you could barely notice it with your eye. But it was enough so that when the plane actually took off, it immediately started turning. You know, you wouldn't think it from a small degrees like that. But, you know, when you're flying it for the first time, these are the things you've got to set up. So get it right at home and make sure you've got the settings right, the correct way around. You get the rudder the right way, and you get the trimming right. The other thing I'd also look at is, you know, do check this out, is what you hear, dual rates and exponential. You hear everyone talking about, I'm flying this plane on the high rates or the low rates. I mean, I watch loads of different, you know, guys and videos on YouTube flying these planes, which is what's got me into it. But yeah, so like what are these the dual rates? Well, basically, when you're turning the rudder, if you press right on the rudder, let's say the rudder physically turns all the way, it's 100%, that's as far as it goes on the stick. You can set it so that the rate actually just turns it a little bit. So it's not fully swinging right across, it's only just moving a small amount. And you want to be setting that up. Set it up on your transmitter so that you've got just a small rate. The first time you're using these sticks for the first time, you don't want to be pressing it and the plane violently swinging. You need to really dull the sensors down of the plane just till you get used to it. It's also important that you have a high rate as well. I'll tell you for why at the end of the video. It's also why I'm showing you the box and not the plane. The plane is behind the box, and I will show you that at the end and explain why. Now, the other thing I'd quickly mention is where you're flying the plane. It's key where you look to fly the plane. You know, these guys show you they're out in some field here. You've got to have a lot of space. If you're going to fly, go into a football field, make sure it's a double football field. You've got plenty of space. There's no houses around or anything. Or if you go, like I did, go into a farmer's field. The only thing though, I had a road next to me and I didn't go far enough away from the road. And on the third flight, when the controls were the wrong way, the plane was over the road. I managed to fight it back into the field with the opposite controls and then crashed it. But you know, I could have crashed that down into the road and that would have been absolutely horrific. So just get out of the way of that. The other thing I just want to mention also is landing the plane. Landing the plane's trickier than you think. Now it's great if you've got a huge field, it doesn't make any difference. You know, you can just slowly, as you're flying, bring the plane down, slow it down and land it, not a problem. But if you try to pick where you're landing it, that's where it gets tricky because you're still trying to learn how these things work. And what I tried to do is, the time I landed it successfully when I wasn't trying to choose where I was landing it. Maybe it's the 6th, 7th flight, something like that. I actually physically thought, right, I'm going to land it in this certain spot. So I took the plane round, I brought it round, I brought it out of a turn, and then as it came out the turn, I actually tried to land the plane coming towards me. Now that makes it very tricky because when you're flying a plane for the first time, when it's coming towards you, your brain's telling you the controls are the other way around. They're not, but when the left wing's down like that, what you really want to be doing is, if you just press the stick towards the wing that's down, and what you'll find is it'll correct the plane. That's a nice easy way to think of it, so you're not trying to get around your head, oh it's this way, it's that way. If the plane's coming towards you and the wing that's dropped, push the stick towards the wing that's dropped and that will just level it up. Or I watched a video and a guy was telling you, turn around, actually face the other way and just look back over your shoulder towards the plane. That will also help you, so that's key. So yeah, you know, bear those things on mind. Setting up the plane before you do anything, before you go out, where you're going to fly it and how you're going to land it. You know, try and land it in a nice big space. Don't try and pick your landing spot. Alternatively, you're flying the plane parallel up and across the field in front of you. You know, land it parallel to you if that's how you're flying it. So yeah, it's something to bear in mind. Now, when we're talking about rates and stuff, I'm going to actually just take this away now and I'll show you the plane. Ta-da! So, let's have a look here. This is what's left of the plane in bits. Now, when I first got it, I really wanted to spray this plane. I hated the white colour it came in. I stripped off all the red stickers off it. And I wanted to spray the plane and get in nice army colours and stuff, but I'm so glad I didn't do that at the start because I crushed it that many times. This is all new tail, new rudder, they were all replaced. The new cowl on the front was replaced. It's now smashed to pieces again, so that would be the second time. So I'm really glad I didn't paint it, but once I got used to flying it 10 times or something like that, about the 10th time I started to get more confident, and then I just actually sprayed it, and I've got all the nice army colours, I've got some stickers on, I put the navy stripes on as well, and it just looked absolutely great. But what was key was flying this plane in the wind. Now on this flight, its very last flight, what's killed the plane, I flew it in a very light breeze. Now I'm not talking, a real vicious wind. It was a very light breeze. The grass wasn't even moving. You could feel it on your face slightly, and that was it. And what happened was, when you fly this plane, I've heard people before I bought it saying that it was floaty, and it really is. These wings are huge. The shape of the wing, the size of the wing, and the wing also is tilted up. When the plane's flying, it's physically tilted up like that. It balloons. What happened was, in this light wind, the plane was just physically lifting in the wind, and you're fighting it. It was dropping down and pitching, and I was absolutely battling it. Now, instead of stopping flying like that, I thought, this is great. This is going to teach you to be a much better pilot. Fly this thing in the wind. Come on, let's have some fun. And it was great fun. But what happened was, the plane got away from me, and it got right down the bottom of a football field, 2 footballs field length away, and I had the low rates on. Now, being the learner, it never crossed my mind at the time. It wasn't until afterwards that I realised if I'd have flicked that button, what I'd set on the rates, to a high rate, I would have got the plane back. But the thing I'll quickly mention as well, the receiver that comes with this as standard hasn't got a long range. I don't know what the range is on this, but I know for a fact when I flew at 2 football fields length, earlier on, before this happened, I started to get warnings and bleeps that it was running out of range, and it started to not be able to control it. I was at this, the wind took it that way, and what happened was, with the wind was blowing this way and the plane was so far away from me, I was pressing the rudder and the plane wasn't turning. I could not turn the plane into the wind so I could turn it to pull it back towards me. Now, at the end of this football field where I got, there was a tree line and there was guys actually playing football. You know, there's like an academy there, and if I dropped it over that tree line, it would have hit someone or something. You know, it would have been absolutely horrific. So I got over this tree line. I could not get the plane to turn into the wind. I had the low rate on. I had no rudder authority whatsoever. The rudder was hardly turning. I couldn't get it to turn it. I had the throttle cut. I'd set the throttle cut on there. I throttle cut and I just dropped it from the sky. That's all I could do, and I literally dropped it. As it was dropping from the sky, I managed to pull it slightly away from the field, and I landed it, you know, maybe 10-20 foot away from the danger zone. And this is what happened. I absolutely smashed it into pieces. I've got a video on my phone, and I'll upload that as well after this, and just to show you, because it'll make a bit more sense when you see that video, because I videoed it on the field. So, you know, just bear that in mind. If you're getting one of these planes, you're learning, be careful of the wind, and if you are getting in a high wind and you want to start messing about in the wind to have a bit of play, make sure you've got a higher rate, because the low rate, the plane would not respond. It was not a strong enough movement to physically get it to work in the wind like that. So yeah, that's it really. A couple of things for you to think about. Otherwise, a good plane, but it's time for me to move on now. I'm going to try and fix this. I know that's crazy, but I actually snapped the fuselage here and I've glued it. It's stronger than when it even came out the flipping factory. So I'm actually going to put some pins in and I'm going to fix this. It may not fly again. I might just hang it in the hanger, but I'm going to put it back together for sure. I can't just leave it like that. And I'm going to move on. The next plane I've got now, I've got a warbird there, but I'm not going to that yet. I've now bought a glider, and I'm going to fly the glider first. It's a first plane with ailerons, so I will do a video on that. It might be useful for someone. I've never flown a plane with ailerons before, so that is going to be absolutely horrendous. I'll make a video on that as well and talk a little bit about that. And once again, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to fly a plane with ailerons and we'll see what happens, because the plane's going to act totally differently. But we'll figure that one out.